This show was brought to you by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is your number one source for the best deals on sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, and so much more. Go to SeatGeek.com or download the SeatGeek app and use promo code BLUESEATS for $20 off your first purchase of $50 or more. That's promo code BLUESEATS only at SeatGeek, the official ticketing partner of From the Blue Seats, a New York Rangers podcast.
The aftermath of Artemi Panarin getting traded to the LA Kings. Was it the right move? Find out on this edition of From the Blue Seats.
DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is built for the fastest game on ice. With player props and live betting, every shift, every shot, every save gives you options to get in on the game with DraftKings Sportsbook. And new customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets instantly. All you have to do is download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use our code THPN. That's code THPN to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY at 467-369. In Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer. Copyright 2026 NHL. All rights reserved.
What's going on, Rangers fans? I know it's Olympic break, but we still got a lot to talk about today. Welcome to yet another edition of From the Blue Seats, a New York Rangers podcast presented by SeatGeek. I'm Jimmy Fanizzi. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Follow us on X and Instagram at BlueSeats94 and use the hashtag BlueSeats to chat with us on any and all topics at hand. Send us fan mail as well from theblueseats@gmail.com. That's from theblueseats@gmail.com. Also, make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube and subscribe on all audio platforms. And be sure to rate us 5 stars. It would mean the world to us. It happened, ladies and gentlemen. The bread man is no longer in New York. He has been traded to the LA Kings for a top-tier prospect in Liam Greentree and a conditional 2026 third-round pick that could turn into a second-round pick if the Kings win a playoff round. And they also got a conditional fourth-round pick for 2026. Now, we are going to break it all down, whether or not this was the right move, whether or not it had to be done. I think it had to be done. I talked about it ad nauseum on the show quite a few times that this trade had to be done, and so did one of my guests joining me today. I always make the joke he might as well be my co-host. That's how often he's on this show. Please help me welcome back on the one and only Jeffrey Krentzman of Mind Your Pucking Business. Jeff, long time no chat, my friend. Happy Olympic break. How's everything with you and the family?
Everything with me and the family is good. Probably not the Ranger family at the moment is that good, but other than that, I'm good and happy to be with you again, Jimmy. Good to see you, my man.
Hey, always good to see you, my man. And my second guest for today, yes, we got ourselves a little roundtable today. I got the co-manager of THPN and co-host of Flamescast, the one and only Kyle Manifold. Kyle, it's been a while since we've had you on the show, my man, but good to see you. And may I just say, before we even get into anything, congratulations to your Seattle Seahawks, Super Bowl champions for the second time. How are you feeling?
Tired and hungover, as I've mentioned before. Yeah, appreciate it, and yeah, it was a good night last night, and just been busy and getting back to reality today.
Yeah, I think all of us are starting to feel that way too. But look, boys, Panarin's gone. I think most of us can agree that this is the kind of deal that had to be done. And I literally feel like every time there is breaking news involving the Rangers, I am at work, which is why I'm a bit delayed with getting this episode out. So to my audience out there, I apologize about that. But look, bottom line is, again, this is a deal that had to be done. But when I initially saw the return, and Jeff, you can vouch for this because you saw the YouTube short I posted, I was a bit iffy about it. I said that's the best you can get a return for, because I initially said before that you can either get a couple of ones, maybe a two, and a player. Granted, they got the player, although I have no idea who he is, but I did my research on Greentree. Apparently, he had 100 plus points, I think, a couple of seasons ago. So apparently, from what I heard, this is a top tier prospect that actually can be very, very good. I have to see it to believe it, but he's a young kid, so it's going to take some time for him to grow to the NHL level. But Jeff, I'm going to start with you here, and you and I have talked about it ad nauseum that this is a deal that had to be done. But in your opinion, was this the right move by the Rangers?
Well, it was the right move to trade him. I mean, they made it very clear. They came out publicly and said he wasn't going to be back. So you got to get something for him. Your alternative is you're not going to get anything for a player of that caliber. And also with the season they're having, what's the point of keeping him here for the remaining 6 weeks of the season? I mean, what I don't even know why you would do that. Was it the right deal? The deal was, look, at the end of the day, the deal was handcuffed by Panarin saying he wanted to go and only go to LA. So Chris Drury couldn't go around and say, you know, I've got this deal from this team in Washington. I got this deal from Florida. I got this deal from Tampa. I've got this deal from Seattle who wanted him. He couldn't. So, and LA knew this. Daryl, why am I blanking on the gentleman? Ken Holland out there.
Thank you.
He's not a rookie. He knows how to play the leverage game. And that was the only place Panarin wanted to go. So, look, Greentree is promising. I like what I see. However, I will tell you that 6 years ago, I sat here like an idiot and I looked at Alexis Lafreniere's stats and saw that they were better than Sidney Crosby's in the Canadian League. So stats don't necessarily equate down the line at NHL play. But could he work out? Of course. But time will tell on that. But look, the deal was what killed the deal really was the no move clause he had. That gave him the flexibility and the ability to say, I'm only going to LA.
Kyle, what do you think?
Well, you look back what happened with Anderson. I think it's like a tale of two different stories here where, at least Anderson, there was the option to shop around a little bit, just like Jeff mentioned there. And, obviously when you're handcuffed here in this position, and Panarin kind of had control to just choose where he wanted to go, and it was LA. I mean, it wasn't surprising to see that was the amount, but I really like Liam Greentree as a player. Not just necessarily looking at his stats. I think he kind of reminds me, just watching him in the OHL. Actually just saw him a couple of days ago here. He reminds me a bit of Tom Wilson in the sense that he'll just go around and just start, beating guys up left, right, and center. He's just that massive, like, power forward type guy. So I think he's a big part of the trade. I don't think necessarily draft picks are something that you're going to be looking at and goggle over. But yeah, I think that Liam Greentree, getting him back was great. It's unfortunate, I guess, because with Panarin, if that's the only place he wants to go, and then all of a sudden, with an expiring deal as well too, and then he ends up only signing for 2 years in LA. I don't think there was much to expect in the first place, but the prime piece here is going to turn out to see. We're going to find out what Liam Greentree does down the road. But I'm high on Greentree. I think he's a really good prospect, and I think he could probably fit in pretty nicely.
Now, you mentioned, Kyle, that there really was nothing else to expect. I kind of want to go in that route for a second, because everything that I was seeing from Rangers social media was expecting a lot more. And I'll admit, I was one of those people, because I said you could get a good haul back. You get a couple of ones, a two, maybe a player. And again, they got the player, but I was personally expecting more, and obviously I was wrong, so I apologize about that. But is it fair to say that, and I think we all know the answer to this, out of all the markets, is New York the fan base that puts the highest expectations? You could argue LA is up there too, but is New York like the number one fan base that puts the expectations way up here, and you expect disappointment?
Yes and no. I've having been living in outside of Toronto all my life, I would argue that fan base can kind of put those expectations high every year. And I mean, they do get disappointment every year, so maybe that's different. But yeah, it's a high market, right? It's a city where you expect high demand from your big players. When you've seen what the Yankees and Mets have done, when you've seen what the Giants did in the last 10, 15 years, right? Like there is a lot of high expectation because of unfortunately it's just where you're at, right? You're playing at MSG and it's this high almighty, building, and sometimes that just comes with it, right? So, you put him in I think it'd be fascinating to see if, you put Green Tree, just as an example, in a smaller market. I think all of a sudden I could see him flourish maybe a bit more. And, as long as they don't put high expectations on Green Tree already in the first place after this deal, I think he'll do just fine.
Now, Jeff, I want to throw this additional question to you personally. I know you're probably going to answer the question I just asked Kyle, but to kind of add to that, do you think that it's fair that we put all this pressure on these young kids and athletes in New York? Because I personally do not think that it's fair. I think it's time that we look things at a more realistic approach and say, hey, it's going to take time here. Things have to build. But unfortunately, in New York, as you and I both know, it doesn't work like that. You think you bring in one guy, you're automatically supposed to win a championship, when we know good and damn well that's not how it works. So me personally, I think it's unfair that we put these high expectations up. To that, you say what?
Yeah, I think it's unfair, but I think a lot of it is driven by past failures and impatience, right? I mean, you look at Lafreniere, you look at Kako, you look at Vitaly Kravtsov, you look at Elias Anderson. There's a whole list of prospects here that haven't worked. Rangers haven't had that homegrown product in a long time, and I think that's part of it is frustration speaking when they put that pressure on. Is it warranted? Is it fair? Probably not. I would agree with Kyle also. I was actually thinking that, I mean, I don't live in Toronto, but Toronto came to mind when I thought about fan bases putting pressure on, just from what I hear stereotypically. I would think Montreal is probably up there. I mean, I'm only really familiar with the New York fan base, and it's a tough market to play. You've got to have a certain skin to play here. But I would think that there's probably other markets, particularly in the hockey world. I mean, I lived in Boston for 4 years when I was in college up there, and they would kill the Bruins. This was in the late 90s when they were good too. I mean, they would go at them all the time. So, yeah, I think a lot of it, though, is driven by the past frustrations and disappointments of previous players that haven't worked out.
Now, there is a reason why I asked that question to the both of you, because it does pertain back to Panarin. In his 7 years that he was here in New York, and I'm going to throw this to Jeff first. Do you consider Panarin, say what you want about lack of postseason success, throw that aside for a second. Would you consider Panarin, in the 7 years that he's been here, one of the greatest free agent signings in their history? And B, do you think that he lived up to the high expectations with being a Ranger?
I would go a step further and answer and tell you he is the best signing in franchise
Wow.
history.
All right.
I think we're talking free agents here, right? So, yes, Messier was huge, but Messier was a trade. So I'm going to answer the question as it was. Mike Richter was drafted. Leach was drafted. I think the only one that you could maybe compare the impact is Adam Graves, who was a free agent signing. But I think he led your team in points for 6 years, every single season. Granted, his postseason play wasn't great, but when you talk about his postseason play, you can't forget his Game 7 overtime winner versus Pittsburgh to advance.
Yes.
You can't forget about his overtime winner in Game 3 versus Carolina 2 years ago.
Yes.
It wasn't like he was doing nothing. He didn't continue at the torrid pace that he had in the regular season. So I would say he is their best free agent signing. And I think he was worth it. I mean, you would have liked to get more postseason out of him for sure, but I think he lived up to the hype. He led your team in scoring every single year he was here. What else do you want?
Kyle, what about you?
Kind of in the same boat. I mean, you remember at the time when the speculation was everywhere about where he was going to go, and he ends up going to the Rangers, obviously. I think at the time it was a pretty significant deal, especially him being successful there with the Blackhawks and trying to be the predecessor there from the Taves and Kane era. And he really was. And he lived up to all the hype, right? So for him to kind of have that he earned his money, frankly, too, and not off the stats that Jeff just read there. I mean, it's pretty evident that he was clearly the best free agent signing in what's been a long time.
I tend to agree with you both, but the problem I have with that is that he was signed a year after the first letter was sent out by Jeff Gordon, in which they said they were going to retool then. And to me, by signing Panarin when they did, I feel like they rushed the retool, and this is why that they're in the position that they are now. So yes, I do agree with you that he is, without a doubt, the best free agent signing the Rangers ever had, comparably to Adam Graves. But I also do think that I feel like they could have waited, but I do agree that he did live up to the expectations of being a Ranger and just being in a big market like New York. I really feel like he understood the fan base. He knew what it took to go out there and perform every single night. So while I do agree that he was the best free agent signing the Rangers ever got, I feel like they could have waited a lot sooner to get him. Kyle, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think you just think of his brand though as well too, right? Like, I mean, he just the way especially like what was it? It was a 7-year deal, right? That he had
7-year deal, yes.
7 years, yeah. So like the entire 7-year process. I mean, he never. He just wasn't really talked about enough. I'm just thinking more or less in the media mindset as well too, but just wasn't talked about, and it pertains to his brand. I mean, he was just a guy that I don't think the light was never shone above him like a lot, but especially when you guys were making the playoffs here and there, and it's like, okay, well, the expectation is now like this is where you got to produce. It doesn't matter what you do in the regular season. You got to find a way to produce here. And so, they had some good chances. They had some good kicks at the can. So I wouldn't even call it like to me, it wasn't like a total failure as the way I see it. So it was just something that I think kind of ran its course.
Jeff, what do you think?
So I would disagree with you a little bit, Jimmy, that it rushed the retool, because I mean, within that retool, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals twice, and they had a 2-0 lead in games in both of those, or actually one of those series, the Tampa series, and they were up 2-1, and they were up 2-1 against Florida, and then in Game 4 they had a lead too. So I mean, it was at that point it's a flip of a coin, right? If you rush the retool, but you're also like literally on the cusp of getting to the finals, I think maybe you did it right. But also, if you want to talk about what has hurt their retool, it's not Panarin. It's the draft picks within that retool, Lafreniere and Kakko, that haven't worked out. That's been way more detrimental if you want to look at something as what's crippling them right now than the Panarin signing, because Panarin is producing still at age 34. These young kids that came in with such promise, I'll even throw in Kravtsov because he was a 2009 draft pick. And I remember when he was drafted, everyone had him as the best international prospect, the best prospect outside of U.S. hockey. And we know what happened there. So I think that was more. I wouldn't say that Panarin hurt the retool. I think he accelerated it.
Interesting. I mean, it's a fair argument, but I don't know. Just part of me was saying I wish they would have signed him sooner. This way, this retool, the first one, wasn't really rushed. That's just my personal opinion. Hey, that's the beauty of sports. We can agree to disagree. But let's talk about Panarin's new team, the Kings. He signed a 2-year extension, which I like. It's a short-term extension for him in LA. It's not too much money. I think it's $11.5 million a year for Panarin there. He gets to play with Kopitar in his final season, along with Drew Doughty. So with this signing, is it fair to say that, and Kyle, I'll throw it to you, does Artemi Panarin put the Kings over the top? Like, in other words, does he help the Kings make it to at least the conference semifinals? Or does he help them take them further, or do you think it's a first round exit?
To be honest, I don't think it matters, quite frankly. Like, the road through the West is going to run through the Central. All the teams in the Central are above a tier. Like, looking at what Vegas has done, they've lost 13, 14 games in overtime, right? So their win regulation record isn't that great. Edmonton outside of their top, like they haven't done anything. So, again, the trade deadlines can be fascinating to see what happens coming up. But, some can make the argument that their goaltending got worse. So this isn't to like discredit LA for anything. I think there's an absolute path to get there. I think there's a path for them to even get to the conference finals, sure. But that's where the tale will end. Like the teams that are built in the Central are built for cup runs. Like they're just top to bottom, just faster and better. And I wholeheartedly believe that. So yeah, I mean, anything can happen, and I might eat my words in a couple months from now, but I just think that it's until we see some more moves made, then maybe I'll have a different opinion. But as we stand today, I don't think any of the teams in the Pacific have a shot at getting to the final this year.
Jeff?
Yeah, I'd agree with Kyle. I would just say one word of caution with me. I don't know the West like I know the East, but I mean, I do know how good Colorado is. I do know how good Dallas is. I mean, I think Minnesota is pretty good too, and I don't think it would surprise me if they made a run. Yeah, I would agree with Kyle. If you're LA though, and you're making that move, how do you not, right? I mean, for them to also answer your other question there, they have to make that move. They had a player of that caliber who's leading his team in points on a terrible season with everyone around him. I don't know I'm sure it will help them in the Pacific. It's not going to hurt them, but I'd agree with Kyle. I'm not sure that I'm counting them as the Western Conference favorites now either.
No, that's fair. I mean, for me, I would say they're more of a conference semifinal team with Panarin. I don't expect them to make the final. With you, we're talking about with the Pacific Division, because you're talking about Anaheim is kind of been up and down, but they're right there as well. You can't discredit Anaheim and what they've done with Kreider, Trouba, and those guys. So, look, the Kings, to me, they're a good team, but I think they're more of like a second-round exit. That's just my opinion, but Panarin does really help them offensively. Now, Kyle, you mentioned the trade deadline. So now that Panarin's out the door in New York, who do you think is next to get traded for the Rangers? Is it Lafreniere? Is it Trocheck? Is it Braden Schneider? Who do you think's next?
I can see it being Trocheck. I think he's going to be a hot commodity, especially with, well, I mean, it's going to depend when he does the Olympics, and hopefully he obviously stays healthy. But him just centering again for Team USA is going to be huge for his credibility and his value and his stock at the deadline. So teams need centerman depth like no tomorrow. A lot of teams have called about Nazem Kadri, and so I know full well that there's a lot of teams that need centermen in the league, and so I feel like just based on that, there's a lot of things that can go his way for Trocheck. Schneider, I could see as well too. You can't go wrong with adding another defenseman, but I kind of feel strongly there about Trocheck.
Jeff, what do you think?
Completely agree. Trocheck is and Trocheck has great value for the reasons Kyle mentioned. He's a center. He's got some playoff experience, and if you're a team that's trying to make a cup run, I mean, that's exactly a piece you'd love to add. Like if you're going to sit there and go for it, you're going to try and add him. I mean, I think Minnesota would be a perfect spot for him.
Oh,
Bill Guerin has a relationship with Chris Drury. You've seen Bill Guerin make two bold moves already this year, Quinn Hughes and the Kirill signing. I think he's a great fit there, and I think he would help them immensely. That would be my place that I'd send him. Schneider, I'm torn on Schneider because, he's a free agent coming up in the summer. He's going to make more money than he will on this deal, but he's not making a lot. So, I mean, if you told me you didn't move him and then you re-signed him on a good term, I could live with that. But if there's an offer out there, I'll give you a name I think should absolutely go, because if you were a cup team, you would want a player like this, and he's not making a lot of money, so someone needs him, and that's Sam Carrick. A fourth-line guy, he's been great, right? For $1 million, you add him on a team that, again, wants to make a run as a fourth-line guy. I think he could be valuable too. I'd like them to move on from Lafreniere. I think the issue with him is I have no idea what his value is right now. And if I did, I'm not going to like the answer because it's not going to be anything that I like. So we'll see what they do. But I think Trocheck is definitely the next to go, and he should be.
Trocheck on Minnesota would be absolutely lethal for that Minnesota offense. Like I can just picture it right now. It would suck to see Trocheck go, but him on that team with Zuccarello, Kaprizov, and those boys, whoo, man, they would be a serious playoff contender. Abso-freaking-lutely. Now, you did mention Lafreniere. I don't know what his trade value is going to be either, but with that being said, Kyle, do you still roll the dice and try to get the best available offer to trade Lafreniere, or do you just ride it out the rest of the year?
I think there's just too many question marks around him right now. So I think it seems like this is an off-season type move, right? I don't think you want to, there's no need to rush it, right? You only have 2-3 weeks left here before the deadline, obviously with the Olympic break and then, trade freeze. So you're not going to have a lot of time, right? So there's no point in rushing it. It's probably an off-season decision that you can look at, further.
Fair enough to me. I mean, it sucks because we had these expectations for Laffy, number 1 overall pick, and the only good season he had was 22-23, and I was at the game where he single-handedly helped the Rangers beat Columbus in that shootout game, and probably one of the worst refereed games I've ever seen, but that was the last good version and only good version of Lafreniere that we've seen, and it sucks because I've been really rooting for the kid. I've been defending him for a while, but ultimately, I think it's time to move on from him. I mean, Jeff, you know how much I defended him, but at this point, I'm just done with him. I mean, how much longer do we have to wait to see if we're going to see that 22-23 version of Lafreniere again? So, my opinion, I still think you should try and move on from him, but if you have to wait, then so be it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also now hard to get someone to take his contract, right? The other thing is, and they've got to take his contract for 7 years. So it's not an easy trade to make. It's not like he's got a year left on his deal and someone tries to reinvigorate him. No, you're committing to reinvigorating his career for 7 years at 7.5 per. So you're going to have to eat some of it, one would think. So I think it would be hard to do. I've defended Lafreniere forever like you. It is getting much harder by the week to do so. There are games that he plays you don't even know he's playing. This is the number 1 overall pick that got billed as a generational talent when they did that lotto ball thing during COVID on a Monday night in August because he was that good of a talent. And look at what he has become. I mean, and that's again goes back to Liam Greentree. I don't care what his stats are. I've seen this script before. I don't know that it's going to work.
Yeah, the truth is neither of us know if Greentree's going to work out, but Panarin's certainly going to work in LA. And look, at the end of the day, Artemi Panarin, we wish you nothing but the best. Thanks for all the memories, and we'll see him back at the Garden on March 16th when the Kings come to play the Rangers. So I guess we can expect video tributes, a standing ovation, all that other fun jazz when former Rangers come back, just like with Kreider and Trouba. But look, gentlemen, this is going to be a very interesting trade deadline, and the first kick at the can, big one for the Rangers, is that Panarin has gone to the Kings. But bottom line is, I think we all can agree that this move had to be done, Kyle.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely.
Jeff?
Yeah, yeah, you have to. You can't let him walk for nothing.
That's the bottom line right there. Gentlemen, this was such a blast. Thank you so much for hopping on. Let's do it again real soon. And, actually, before I even forget, I'm forgetting something here. Kyle, I'm going to have you plug your show first. Where can people find you and find you on social media?
Well, I'll plug the network first before I plug the show.
Fair enough. Go ahead.
No, yeah, it's been going strong here. Got another good year coming up, obviously, too. And yeah, just keep following the network. Got some great shows still. I mean, that's just utterly the most important thing right now. And nobody should be watching Flames hockey, so don't worry about the show right now. It's okay.
Still no direction with Calgary, huh?
Sell. Lose and sell.
I think that sums it up right there. Jeff, where can people find you, man?
You can find us mostly on the Instagram platform. We're really active there. Mind your fucking business. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, Instagram. So if you want us, you have no excuse if you can't find us. We give you plenty of options.
Plenty of options indeed. Now I will say, gentlemen, thank you so much. Happy Winter Olympics. Let's do it again real soon. Thank you boys so much.
Awesome. Thanks Jimmy.
Big thank you to Jeffrey Krentzman and Kyle Manifold for hopping on the show to talk about Panarin and what's next for the New York Rangers. Let's hear from you, though. Do you think trading Panarin was the right move, and will it work for the LA Kings? Let us know down below in the comments on YouTube and on all social media at BlueSeats94 and use hashtag BlueSeats. And send us fan mail from the BlueSeats at gmail.com. That's from the BlueSeats at gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on the Panarin trade, and we might shout you out in the next episode. And once again, we are sponsored by SeatGeek. SeatGeek is your number one source for the best deals on sporting events, concerts, comedy shows, and so much more. Make sure you download the SeatGeek app and use promo code BLUESEATS, all one word, BLUESEATS, for $20 off your first purchase of $50 or more. That's promo code BLUESEATS only at SeatGeek. I'm Jimmy Fanizzi. This is From the Blue Seats, a New York Rangers podcast. Go Blue Shirts, and we'll catch you next time. Peace!